The upcoming trading week is bound to be a pretty chaotic one, and in this video, I'll be breaking down everything you should be paying attention to. Not only are we wrapping up the month of September and kicking off the month of October, but we have a lot of very important macroeconomic data drops that are obviously going to have a huge influence on the market. Beyond that, we have a lot of narratives to dive into between what's going on with monetary policy, what's going on with trade deals, what's going on with earnings. Of course, we're going to be hopping into seasonality, but really, if you're watching this, there's a good chance you care about the golden question. If you're watching it, you probably know that we just hit a new all-time high last week, and now we're taking a bit of a breather. So here's the golden question that I really want to dive into in this video. Is that high kind of the local high and we're taking a bit of a breather, or is it temporary and this upcoming week and this upcoming month, we're about to break through it and hit new fresh records? Of course, we'll be breaking it all down, but before we get to that, if you enjoy these type of market breakdowns, or if you just enjoy wearing Carhartts to videos, don't forget to like, subscribe. Really, when you guys leave comments and turn on your notifications, all that type of engagement really does help get this video in front of other people who I guess are degenerate gamblers like the rest of us. So with all that being said, thank you, and let's get the show on the road. Alrighty, to have a better understanding of where we might be going, it's probably useful to understand where we're coming from. So when the market officially closed last week on Friday, here was the headline. Stocks closed higher Friday after inline inflation data, but S&P 500 snapped a 3-week winning streak. So even though it technically did have a down week, we did also hit a new all-time high. In fact, we hit that on Tuesday. So slightly down if you see the weekly here, but overall still pretty strong. Higher highs, higher lows, good momentum. We're on top of all the EMAs. And of course, a little bit later, I'll show you all the important gamma structure, really the options flow to get an idea of the upcoming week. But overall, you can see the bulls are still pretty much in control on the S&P 500. Very similar situation on the NASDAQ, and also even in the Russell hitting an all-time high on Tuesday. So we're clocking new all-time highs, and then there was a bit of profit taking as we're heading into the conclusion of the month. One particular overall thing that's looking a bit weak is Bitcoin. Right here, lower highs. Are we about to snap this low? Who knows? I'm not saying this in terms of me being against Bitcoin. I'm just letting you know, clearly on a relative basis, measuring against the equities market, it is obviously weaker. So that's the setup going into this. But remember, that's not how you make money. You make money on what's about to happen. So the first thing you need to know, and I like to do this every week, is seasonality. The final week and kind of the start of October over the past 20 years worth of data is a bit weak, but then I want to let you know as we get really into October, it's actually a bullish month. So this is 20 years worth of data. If you look at the last 5 years, you could see September is a weak month, but then by the time you get in October, it's actually a bullish month. And by the time you look at the kind of separate weekly performance, you can see, and we did buck this trend of technically, from the past 5 years worth of data, the last 4 weeks in a row are dominated by the bears. But in terms of this particular year, only one of those weeks was right. And that was actually the most recent week right here, where it was only slightly red after hitting a new all-time high. Anyway, heading into the next 4 weeks, the bulls are in control, and you also see that in the monthly right here. So I wanted to give you the general gist of seasonality, and I'll be the first to admit it's not the end all be all. As I always say, it helps you with the idea of tailwinds and headwinds and all that good stuff. But this upcoming week, what you're really going to want to know about are all the major macroeconomic data drops. So Monday's a bit more quiet, and then for the rest of the week, it goes jobs, 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 and more jobs. So on Tuesday, we're going to be getting consumer confidence and the JOLTS job openings. On Wednesday, we're going to be getting the ADP non-farm employment change and some manufacturing numbers. On Thursday, initial jobless claims. And then on Friday, remember, the first Friday of a brand new calendar month is when you get all the employment numbers. So you get non-farm payrolls, employment rate, and all that good stuff. So basically, Tuesday onward, in one way or another, we're learning about jobs, which is incredibly important because remember, as I was talking about monetary policy, that's half of the dual mandate. Price stability, i.e. inflation. We just got an inline PCE inflation report. The other half of the coin, the other half of the mandate, is jobs and how strong is the labor market, and that's what we're about to find out. So please pay attention to all of it. Pretty much Tuesday onward, you got to know what's going on. The other thing you should be a little bit aware of is this unique day right here, Tuesday, September 30th. Tuesday itself, not so special, but the fact that it's the end of a month and this month is aligned with the fiscal quarter means we have to consider this position right here. If you don't know what I'm looking at, shout out to Spot Gamma. This is by far the best options analytics tool. But what you see on the screen right now is going to be all the key gamma levels from basically all the large open interest strikes. And right here, this low vol point, one of the biggest gamma levels on the docket down at 6,505, is all because of the JPM collar position. Now, if you don't know what that is, JPM and one of the ETFs that they run and operate every single quarter, and they're doing this in calendar months, they do a giant collar position, which is a three-part position. They are selling calls, buying puts, and also selling other puts. And really what it does is if things drop, you make money, but you're protecting yourself. And if it goes up, well, you have a little bit of a ceiling, but all right, like it is overall a bullish bet, and inherently they're playing this off of a core S&P 500 position. But the point here is you could see 6,505. That is where the short calls are at, and that's the one that we're closest to, and that's this position right here. This will be quote unquote falling off the table on Tuesday. This expires on Tuesday, which means the entire gamma structure is going to have quite a change. So I want to put that out there. I wish I could tell you if it was going to be bullish or bearish, but in reality, there's just going to be a big movement because that position is going to fall off, and then they're going to roll it into a new position, which we're going to find out throughout the trading day on Tuesday. So don't be surprised if the intraday action on Tuesday is a little bit wonky. That's one thing you have to be paying attention to on top of all these data drops. But wait, there is more. Xi, president of China, is chasing a huge concession from Trump, opposing Taiwan independence. Here's what you need to know. Don't forget, we are still in the middle of a quote-unquote trade war, and one of the biggest trade partners, China, right now, it's kind of this tit for tat thing of who really has all the bargaining chips. We know recently the TikTok deal kind of going through, confirmed by the US, not confirmed by China, but don't forget, there is a larger picture at play, and right now, you could argue that Taiwan independence is one of them, so don't be surprised if this upcoming week, we have some developments there. The other thing you're going to be looking for developments on is the US government going to shut down. Trump to meet with top congressional leaders as US shutdown nears. So on Monday, to kick off the trading week, they're supposed to, as of now, as of the point that I'm filming this, there is a scheduled meeting. So that's another thing that clearly can have an impact on the economy and thus the market. Pay attention to that. And last but not least, we've been talking a little bit about monetary policy. Pretty crazy that the sitting president just posted this AI generated meme of him firing Powell, the chairman of the Fed. And right now we're going into a week with all the jobs numbers, a lot of different Fed speeches. So that's another thing you got to consider. So we have monetary policy, what's going on with the labor market and inflation, what in the world is going on with the US government, are we shutting down or not? And then of course the current state of the trade war. And it seems like right now the thing that's really in scope is our trade agreement and relationship with China. So those are all the major things where we don't really have a scheduled event, but throughout the week we do have a lot of scheduled jobs drops and those data updates. So pay attention to that. And then just to make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more chaotic, we are going to have that gigantic roll of the JP Morgan collar position. So across the board, that's the TLDR of what you have to pay attention to. But I don't want to leave you just on that note because it could sound, I don't know, a little bit confusing. I threw a lot at you, kind of a fire hose worth of information. So really, I want to wrap this up with a bit of a, hey, take a step back and realize that overall, we just hit an all-time high. The trend is as strong as could be, higher highs, higher lows. That is strong price structure. We are above all the moving averages. That is strong momentum. And as of now, going into this, the options flow is looking pretty good. There's a lot of people targeting higher 6,700. They're looking for the gamma to go negative, and they're talking about 6,800. That is all possible. But I do want to let you know, obviously, as I've said many times in this video, this whole structure of where's their support, where's their resistance, those key gamma levels are going to dramatically change after Tuesday. So make sure you're paying attention to the Tuesday/Wednesday update video because I'll be breaking down where they rolled it to and basically do we have that positive gamma support underneath, which is what we've now had for weeks, a month, sending the market higher, sending the market higher, sending the market higher. It hasn't obviously dissipated in months, so maybe we're going to be continuing with that trend. But as of right now, I can't really make a conjecture. Let's just wait for that data to come out. So that's what I'm paying attention to for the upcoming week. Of course, this is more of a macro look at the entire market. But if you have an individual equity that you're really stoked about this upcoming week, please let me know in a comment below. More than happy to make an independent breakdown video for that. I appreciate all your good vibes. Thank you. That's what I have for you. I'll catch you in the live stream tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., bright and early. Peace.